everybody. Welcome back. I'm Desiree, your host. We've been having an amazing time together at our Belting Prosperity Summit over the past 12 days. And here we are on the final day, which makes me a little bit sad, but also just so grateful. And I've saved some of the big guns for our final day together. And as you can see, I'm here with this incredibly wise, gorgeous, talented woman and mother and priestess. She's the creatrix of Woman Rising. And I've been following her for many moons now. And really, this woman introduced me to the priestess path. I don't think I really realized what a priestess was or had even heard that term. And this was like many years ago now. And it kind of course corrected me. So there was something that within me that really got stirred, and it started as a curiosity and it ended up deepening into a whole vocation and devotional practice. And I'm so pleased she's here with us today. Ameya Cohen, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. This is so fabulous. Now, I know you're planning a pilgrimage very soon. Would you be willing to share a little bit about what that is?
So I am taking a group of pilgrims, of beautiful women priestesses, to the Holy Isle of Avalon, which is present-day Glastonbury. Many people know about Avalon because of the book, The Mists of Avalon, and it sort of introduced many women, I think, over the last 3 decades. And it is the heart chakra of the planet. And it is full of mystery and layers of mysticism. And it's really a place that I believe we have to arrive to, in the sense of Avalon parts her mists and we come forward into her landscape, receiving from the elementals and the fae and the trees and the plants and all the benevolent beings, and we receive and we remember, and then we go back out into the world and we bring these sacred gifts back out into the world, because Avalon herself as a landscape can't do that. And so she's counting on all of us to hear and feel the call of soul to come there, because most women are like, I kind of know why I'm going, but I don't totally know. And then to offer that back in our families, our communities, our work, the world.
What do you most love about being there and being in that energy of the land, the Lady of Avalon?
That is really a hard question to answer, because there's so many dimensions and there's so many realities that are converging sort of all at once. I think what I love about Avalon is because it's the heart chakra, there is a softness. And I think sometimes when women are on their devotional path or think about a pilgrimage, it's like, ooh, what's going to be asked of me? Or is this going to be really intense? And there's something so sweet and easeful about those lands. Not to say that there won't be things that arise, but it's not as confronting perhaps as maybe some other landscapes. And I think for me, what I love is that it's familiar. Like, I think sometimes on our spiritual path, we think that everything has to be these quantum leaps and epic transmissions of energetics, and we're like out of our body. And on Avalon, you could have a glimpse into a past timeline or a past life of your own self, and it somehow feels familiar. It's like, oh, that just happened. Okay, I'm just collecting this into my being. And so we can embody it in a more profound way, which is the most important, is how do we be these people? How do we be the truth of our own self?
Love that.
There, yeah, and the flowers and the trees there and the waters. I mean, there's just so many more things that I can say, but it's an extraordinary place filled with Celtic and Druidic myth, and then the royal bloodline, Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Joseph of Arimathea. Like, there's so many things converging, and you're given what it is that you're needed to see.
I love that. I love that you're talking about the being and being in the body as opposed to like kind of being out there, expansive in the 5D. But how do we, on the priestess path, bridge the two, like the 3D and being in a physical body and human experience with the 5D when we are seeing our past lives and we are aware of all our guides and all these mystical experiences that do happen? How do you describe that bridging the two together?
I mean, I think a lot of it is a lifelong journey. Um, we chose to embody, we chose to incarnate into these human body temples. And so we can have these ecstatic states where we're connected to 5D or connected to the cosmos or connected to the unseen realities. And then we also have to remember that they actually get amplified when we bring them into the body. And this is so much what I think Beltane season is about, is we're alive, we're connecting to Eros, we're connecting to our passion, we're connecting to the polarities that make creation. And so when we leave out being in the body, we actually leave out a really big piece of our own existence. The path of the priestess is to become a holy vessel, meaning that you anchor heaven on earth in your body. When you're checked out, when you're unavailable in this human realm, you're not fully allowing Eros, the erotic life force, to move through you, to take up residency in your body. And so you're missing out on actually living. And I think it can be a big shift for a lot of us, because we think on a spiritual path, like we want to have those epic moments, and we do. I mean, they're extraordinary and they're very supportive of our own embodied knowing, but they have to be brought back into this plane. And because of different traumas that we've each had in our lifetime, there are parts of ourselves that we're cut off from, or there are parts of ourselves that don't feel safe to be in, or there are parts of ourselves from past lifetimes that we don't feel safe to be in our bodies, or to be priestesses or witches, or, so it's really a multifaceted journey, both emotional healing, physical healing, energetic, and spiritual. But I think, to answer your question, because we only have a little time of like, how do you do this? I think the first thing is making a choice. Making a choice. I'm incarnated. I'm here. I'm meant to take up space. And all of these extraordinary experiences that I can't even put words around have to come in to my human realms. And that's the meeting of the divine and human. And then there's like the alchemy of what that looks like for each person and how that's expressed.
I love that. And one of the things you do so beautifully is you're in the feminine flow and you're able to bring in some masculine to be able to create a community, to be able to go across to another continent with a global group of women. It's so amazing how you are able to be the creatrix and bring it through to fruition and impact so many lives. How do you balance that? Because there's just these practical things that we get to do as well as priestesses. How do you find that balance for yourself?
I mean, my biggest center point, I feel like I could cry, just the way that I do it is through devotion. It's like everything in my life has to center within my own devotions. And so, I may have a desire or want or dream, and I have to bring it to, my spirit council, those beings that I work with, those benevolent guides that are walking side by side with me, because it would be egoic of me to just assume that everything that I want to do is going to come into fruition. There's adjustments, there's refinements, there's blessings that I need to receive. So if I go, I want to take a group of women to Avalon, or I want to run this program, or I want to, all these wants that I have, which hopefully are coming from a beautiful space. I have to bring them into my devotional realms. I have to create ceremony. I have to ritualize them because I am on a path of service, and because it's very, very important to me that I'm constantly serving, like both serving myself, of course, because I need to have needs and wants met, but also remembering that we're an interdependent species and I need to be serving other people. Like what do others want from my specific frequency? How can I show up? And so if I didn't have my devotions, if I didn't have ceremony, if I wasn't able to access partnership with the unseen, I don't think that I would do half the things that I do, because out of respect to the divine, I'm constantly asking for blessings of, is this blessed? Is this something I'm meant to put my attention and energy towards? Because sometimes I have to leave my family, which is a big deal, or sometimes I have to, work harder in some ways, or, so I'm always in relationship with the divine, always. And that's going to look different for everyone, but that's center. That's center for me.
So beautiful. And it's such a different journey, isn't it, to create out our projects or courses or retreats, to have that devotion and partnership with the unseen, rather than, because there's a lot of different ways to go about business, essentially, which could be much more masculine. And that's been my experience, where it's felt like at times being pushed off the deep end, and then you're expected to figure out how to swim, and you're thinking, there's got to be an easier way to do this that's way more in alignment with feminine energy and being a sensitive person and clearing all the blocks energetically as we go, without like pushing through the blocks. And it seems like you've really figured that out and dialed it in and tuned in through your devotion. And it's a beautiful thing.
Well, I think we all know what it feels like when we're out of alignment.
Yes, we do.
When things are like clunky and you're just like, oh my gosh, but I want to make this happen, and it's just like, it's not easy. And so I've done that. I'm like, this is what I want, I've done all of that. And for me, it makes things so much harder and so much more challenging. And I want to cultivate a life of ease as well. Like, I can be of service and there can be ease. And so the more I'm in alignment with my own self, the more that I work with the unseen, the greater everything becomes. And it's just getting out of the conditionings that we've had up until this point of how we're meant to do something, and go like, actually, I'm not sure that's going to work for me. I need something different.
Yeah, it takes a boldness to do that, doesn't it?
It takes bravery, it takes courage, it takes trust that you are working in partnership with the holy. I mean, that's the trust piece is the biggest piece.
Ooh, how do we get more of that? Is it just the devotion, having the ritual and practice? But what do you recommend to deepen into trust of self, and also trusting the universe has our back?
Well, these are really big questions. Trust brings up our sense of worth, our sense of belonging, our sense of like shoulds, what we should do. So much of the women that I'm sure are listening here, because we all have it, have conditionings of what and how we should live and what our life should look like. And there comes a point, I think, for many women where we get to this sacred threshold where we go, I can no longer ignore these parts of myself that are screaming inside of me, right? Like when you were sharing how I said the word priestess and something came alive, it's like, then that thing keeps talking to you. And then you're like, I can no longer, you try to ignore it. You try to like, oh, whatever. I'll get to that someday. And then there's like, I can no longer not listen. And I think that that's also the moment where we deepen our trust, because up until a certain point of our own conditioning, like we're like, you grow up, you go to college, you get a job, you get married, you have a baby, you do this, you retire, and then you die. And I think what so many of you are experiencing is like, there's more. There's actually more to this life. Not to say any of those things are bad, but there's more than just that one trajectory that means you've been successful in your life. And so when there's this waking up and we start to take some steps towards that which we're waking up to, I think that trust just naturally happens. So then we listen to something inside and we go, okay, I have no idea what this is. I don't know what's about to happen, but I'm going to trust, because if I ignore this, then I'm like exiling a deep part of my own self. And so I'm going to make this step and this choice. And then something else happens. And I think life is a constant invitation of trusting ourselves, trusting spirit, trusting that we are held and cared for when we show up in that full alignment of soul self. And that's, like you said, it's bold. It's a brave and courageous path to walk. And what you're doing here, creating for women, where we go like, wow, there's thousands of other women here doing this with me. I'm not crazy, and I'm not wrong. And I have women who are walking alongside of me, and we're doing this together. And that's the new paradigm for how we get to trust. Because when we feel like we're doing it by ourselves in isolation, and we look at the world and we're like, we're crazy, we're wrong, we don't belong, then we close that trust piece off.
How
That's
are we
not what we're wanting.
Yeah, I love it. How are we doing with that paradigm? With
Which
the new paradigm that women are co-creating, and men, of course, too, and conscious aware men, as we're shifting away from what was. How do you feel? Because I know you're in tune with thousands of women in your community. What's your sense? Are we doing it? Are we moving forward with this? Are things getting better?
I think there's a both and part of this, which is a different level of consciousness than like, is this happening or is this not happening, or this is black or this is white, or this like this both and. That's a more expansive consciousness of the way that we change the world is by each of us stepping forward. I mean, that is the truth, is that we need this co-weaving together, men and women, to go, that's not justice, that's not righteousness, that's not inclusive, that's not, like, we need to be able to be doing this all together. And there is, I mean, there's like, you have thousands of women here, right? So there's thousands upon thousands of people doing this all around the world. And there's also thousands and thousands of people who have no access to this and have no voice still. So it gives me the reflection of going, okay, those people don't have a voice. Those people don't have access. We need to do even more. We need to speak even louder, whether that's vocally or through the way we spend our money, or through running our programs to activate more women and empower more women. There is a both and experience of things are changing. There are structures that are holding on for dear, dear life that they're not ready to crumble. And the only way that things are going to get even more and more and more is if we just link arms and keep going, okay, I have to heal in here. I have to reclaim in here. I inspire somebody else over here, and we're doing this together. And we do this for the next generations and for the generations after that, as we know. And it is happening. It's just that we're also like trying to annihilate thousands of years of oppression at the same time. So it's like this simultaneous remembrance awakening, and like integrating all of that in our bodies, and then having the physical, mental, emotional health and vitality to then support the changing world. You know, so it's both.
I feel that. And I know you're an astrology expert as well, and you really follow the path of Venus, and you're very attuned to these energies. Can you share a little bit about what's occurring now? We're at the time of this release, it's May 12th, and we've been, of course, in eclipse season, Mercury retrograde is still going on, and I've definitely been feeling like things are stirring and changing and congealing, all the things. Is there anything that you can share with us that would support us?
Yeah. So, I'm not an astrologer. So just presencing that piece is that this is, when you were saying, all these 5D things and how do we live them? For me, the celestial realms is a great way for me to understand what's being showered upon and then live. And we're all feeling like I was just on a call before where the women were like, I'm so tired. Like this eclipse season I'm exhausted, right? So there's all these things that are being affirmed by what's happening in the cosmos. And I think that can be really lovely for us to understand when we're feeling so much. And, Beltane and really the time of May, I feel there's always a lot going on. And Beltane itself is such a powerful time of fertility and communion between the masculine and feminine. And because we're in the Taurus sun time, there's this like fertility of our own bodies and pleasure and prosperity, like, financially and health wise and all the things. Like there's so much richness. And then we also have the Scorpio full moon that just happened. Well, by the time this airs, it will have just happened, which is like kind of the death. So we have this, Scorpio wants to go so deep and to come into like the deepest communion. And Taurus is like, and I'm life, so we have these dualities that we're feeling where we're pulled. And what that always feels like to me at this time with often the eclipses is that we can no longer exclude really essential parts of who we are. We've gotten really good at that as women. We can put this part off to the, maybe I put my devotional spiritual self off to the side when I'm with this group of people, or maybe I put my academic intellectual part over here when I'm with this people. But actually there needs to be a coalescing of all those fragmented parts of ourselves, because that's what makes your unique expression. And you have unique gifts that are so needed in your homes, in your communities, in your work. And Beltane is such a potent time to say, I'm including all the parts of who I am. And Venus, who's the planet of love, she's in her evening star phase. So she's ascending in the sky. And so this is the part of Inanna's myth where she's after the underworld, where she's had her own shamanic death and transfiguration. She rises and she's like, I have more of me. I have more of me that I can access and therefore give in the world. And so she's at the throat. And this is a powerful place, as we know, for women, because speaking our truth it can be dangerous, right? We've had violations when we do that, or assaults, or we've hurt people's feelings. And we also speak the truth of the goddess. So when we speak that truth, we're creating an offering into the world. And so at this time, we're reclaiming our true voice. We're reclaiming that which needs to be spoken. And there's a lot that women hold. And there's a lot that women need to speak, because we are nurturers and we are nourishers, and we will always speak it with love. So that's a little bit of what's happening, is like, bring all of you together. You are so extraordinary. Bring every ounce of who you are. Like, let all of you arrive so that you can live more fully expressed.
It feels so good to feel into that, to have that
Wow.
permission, doesn't it? It's like, oh, such, I just want to breathe a big sigh of relief. It's like, yeah, we get to do that. And we're lucky if you're here watching, you're in a privileged position. And we have so many opportunities and so much privilege, and to not fully embody that and to use it for good in the world would not bring as many rewards as if you do it.
Yeah, I love that you use the word permission. I think that's really a potent anchoring of, it can feel so scary to bring
Yeah.
all parts of yourself and fully arrive. And it doesn't mean that you have to be like, flashy and like, I'm here. It does, I don't have that frequency inside me. I can be so much more quiet and hang back. And all of me needs to be present, or else I don't feel resonant in my own self. And I know it can be scary, but it's also extraordinarily liberating to go, all of me is welcome. All of me belongs, and all of me is going to be impactful in the world. And if there's people in your life who don't like all of you, then there's transformation that needs to happen to those relationships.
How important is it to you to have a relationship? I know you have a partner who's a conscious, loving, aware man. How important is that in everything that you're creating?
Oh, well, I'm sure it's really important. I haven't thought about it in the sense of it would be hard for me to imagine what it, I don't know. I don't know how that would, I don't know. We've been together 13 years, so I don't know. I can't imagine what I would be like without having that. Of course, we've gone through challenges and growth and transformation, of course. And we're both on conscious paths. So there's awarenesses that we have that are really important for each of us. So I'm sure I'm a different place or a different person because of that for many different reasons. But I don't know, like, I'm not sure how to answer that because I don't know.
Yeah, you've been together for so long and you've been on this journey of creating all your offerings in the world. And it seems like,
Yeah, and we're parent, then we have a child. So then we have, that whole other energetic that comes into the relationship, and that creates a trinity of our own family and the energetics and the patterns and all of that that get played out between all three of us.
That's beautiful. How has having a child shifted, changed, or influenced your offerings in the world and your devotions that you share with others?
I mean, I think becoming a parent, it's sort of like if I was looking at the world with this, like this level of energy, it brought things into a closer, more intimate focus for me, because of the way that I choose to parent, where I'm really available and really present. That makes my work have to merge. And so I had a teacher before I became pregnant who said, you either priestess or you mother. And she's like, it's really hard to transition from this to this. And you have to be in one or the other. And I thought, oh yeah, I get that. I get that. And so I sort of took that the first couple of years of being a parent. And then I thought, you know what, that's extremely limiting. And I don't know if I believe that to be true, because at my foundation is priestess. And everything that I do in my life is fed through my spiritual devotion. So whether I'm with you here, with my son, or with friends, or whatever I'm doing, it actually has to come from my embodied essence, from the deepest place inside of me. So even though I may not be what looks like priestessing by, creating an altar or ritual, and I'm making dinner for my son, I still want to bring the same level of devotion to that space. So, we talk about the mundane or the sacred, and I try my best to kind of like merge them together, because as a parent, I don't have 2 hours to sit in ceremony like I used to in my backyard. I'm like, got 10 minutes because I think he's going to be waking up soon. And I use those 10 minutes and I feel like I walk like 10,000 years, those 10, what I can do in an hour now compared to 8 hours is remarkable. So I think it's just, it's made me be in greater devotion to that which I value, and use my time in a much more efficient way than I ever have. And I'm raising a boy who's going to become a man. And that's something I'm aware of all the time, because our children are only children for short moments. They're adults for much more. And so for me, raising a man is, I take it really seriously. A man who reveres the goddess, a man who reveres his own self, a man who's connected to Gaia. It's like, these are very important pieces of my experience.
Wow, that could be one of the most powerful contributions that you might have in your lifetime. I know you have so many.
I pray. That's, men still run the world. Men are still making decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I pray that I raise a man who is caring.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. Oh, thanks, Ameya. Thank you so much for sharing. Just this embodiment of devotion just feels so powerful and so needed today, that we get to fully focus and devote to ourselves and to the sacred, to the divine. And it's so easy to get distracted in this time that we're living in. And we're getting this message today of getting in there, devoting, staying focused, and bridging the 5D, 3D. And
Yeah, I think, what you're saying about we can all get distracted, right? And that's why we want to be in spaces and communities like this, because we do need a tether to bring us back into that place of truth. And because it is so easy. So we can do this. We really do need the anchor that's like, and it doesn't have to be, I think we have in our minds, because I've heard women say this, like, I don't have hours. I have a job, or I have this, I'm taking care of my elderly parent, or I have a child, or I'm sick, I have autoimmune, whatever it is. We don't need hours. It's more about our intention and presence than anything else. And that ripples out.
Beautiful. And I know you have a gift to support us too.
A gift.
We're good. I love all the gifts. I feel like I'm like Oprah when she's giving me the cards. Everything like, and
Everyone gets the
today.
gift. I love that. That must be really fun. So my gift is, it's an ebook on earth rituals and flower essences. So earth rituals, how we can connect more deeply to the earth. So I give a whole bunch of different rituals that you can include, that maybe you just add to what you're already doing, or maybe this is totally new to you. And then flower essences, which has been a really significant part of my path, that will amplify the ritual. So you can just do the earth ritual. They're very easy and beautiful and powerful. And you can also use the essence of flowers to potentize that experience, so you get even more out of it. So it's a really beautiful, you can share it with friends, you can share it with your children, invite people in as you sit in ceremony and ritualize with Gaia, because you're an extension of Gaia. So enjoy.
Thank you, Amazing. Thanks for joining everybody and sharing in this experience with us together today. And also through the past couple of weeks together. There's been a lot of wisdom and downloads, and just go gently and gracefully forward as you integrate and take what serves you and release what doesn't. And just allowing this, I love that word coalesce, Ameya, that you used earlier, and just allowing it all to coalesce. And I think you might be surprised, everybody, in the coming months, maybe by summer solstice, that there's been some interesting shifts and changes, and also maybe even the word I'm getting is like realigning to yourself and your priorities and what matters. And this is such an example of the power of community, communing, and having that unity come together. And it can be, I think it's just such an example of we're stronger together. And the linking of arms, that's what we're up to here. Yeah.
Thanks for having me, Desiree.
Yeah.
Sending lots of love to all of you here. It's been a joy to be together and stay in touch. And blessed journey forward.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. See you again soon.
Lift yourself higher.